super controversial gym. We're the most viral gym on the planet. Would attack just every gym in Florida. We would just attack them and challenge them to fights. No team was doing that.
Wow.
Usually, like, you just get matched up. We were literally like headhunting.
Wow.
Like, we want you, we want your gym, and we would just call out every gym.
Welcome, everyone. We got another very special episode of The Flow Show. We got my man Asim Zaidi in the building. He is the president of Karate Combat. We're going to talk about that. Happens to be sponsored by Karate Combat. That's not just because he's here. That's what the podcast is about. And I got to welcome you, my man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the time. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's an honor to be here, man.
Well, we've gotten to hang out. We've played some poker together now on Hustler. So
you took all our money.
That did happen, but we did that, and then we've been to some cool events. I've been to Abu Dhabi. I've been to Austin. Been to the physical locations. We got a lot to cover. Let's just dive right into Karate Combat. How did this come about? Where did you get involved with this?
It's actually pretty cool. You know, I actually have an MMA gym about 5-6 minutes from here.
Yep.
And we were fighting around the world, and we're actually the most viral MMA gym on the planet.
Yep.
So with that, we were getting a lot of attention.
Goat Shed.
Yes. Yeah, the name is Goat Shed. Yep. And we were getting a lot of attention. And we were invited as sort of like VIP guests to a Karate Combat event.
Okay.
And when that happened, that's where I met the founder, Rob,
Yep.
and a bunch of people. And we started talking about the social media of it and how to tell the stories of the fighters better. Because that's what Karate Combat was sort of missing. They weren't telling the stories of the roster, and they wanted people to care about the fighters.
Yep.
So they're like, dude, how do you do it with your gym? And so I came on first to help with the socials, but it evolved very quickly. And, within a couple days, became president of Karate Combat.
And so literally you meet Rob, I know Dave Kuhnwells, and they just were like, they met you and they're like, hey, what about you coming on and being the face and be president?
So it wasn't like that. It was initially just the social media stuff.
Okay.
It was like, look, create the storylines, help tell the stories of these fighters and promote them on social media and guide the social media team. And I'm like, okay, that's rather easy,
Yeah.
So I accepted that. But for some reason, as I started the position, it was only 2 days in or 3 days in when they asked me to become president.
Wow.
And I knew it was coming. To be honest, I went on Instagram and I looked if President Asim was available. Because I'm like, all right, it's going to happen eventually. I can smell it.
Yep.
And sure enough, I got that position.
And when was that exactly?
That was about 8 months ago.
Oh, really?
It was,
recent?
Yeah, very,
I thought it was
very
a little
recent.
bit. Okay.
No,
So, wow.
It was 8 months ago.
Which
exactly.
Which event was the first one you went to?
So the first one I created was December in Las Vegas.
Okay.
That was the first event where I matchmaked everything and helped promote it
Yep.
and do everything. So, yeah. So since then, been...
Wow. And it's taken off. I mean, I also got more involved and been a part of it. The one in the backyard here was amazing.
My mom's house?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your mom's house. How did that come about? Because that's an amazing, that was crazy in a neighborhood. You can't really put in perspective. I remember driving to it and I was like, wait a minute, we're in a residential neighborhood. There was buses and all this and it was chaos. I thought it was going to get shut down. The police were around. And
I was so shocked it didn't get shut down.
Yeah, me too.
But this is really, really awesome. So what happened is we threw such an unbelievable event in Las Vegas that I was trying to figure out, how can we do things different? And thank God, the team of Karate Combat, the founders, everybody's so creative and so open-minded.
Yeah.
They don't put us in a box,
Yep.
So jointly, together, we came up with this idea and we're like, dude, let's do an event at your mom's house. And I'm like, sure, guys. Let me figure out how we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
And the reason behind it was this. We threw such a major event in Las Vegas. And we're like, okay, how can we shock everybody? How can we stir the pot and get everyone to pay attention to us again?
Yep.
So we're like, okay, Las Vegas with Anthony Pettis versus Benson Anderson. That was a huge headliner.
names, yeah.
Now, for the next event, we didn't have a headliner like that. I said, you know what? If we do an event at my mom's house, it would totally shock the world.
No,
the
it's cool.
combat sports world would be like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
So it was shocking. We were able to do it. And actually, we almost got shut down. I don't know if you know about that part.
I mean, I saw police were around. I know I was talking to Dave and Rob. They were a little stressed out, so I could feel that it was definitely imminent.
So I dropped down into tears that week. My wife as well, because we were organizing it. But it was really tough. So basically, what happened? Just to give the quick story. So we were doing this event. We needed 2 paramedics in order to have the event run, right?
Okay.
So, we asked somebody on the Karate Combat team, hey, please reserve 2 paramedics.
Yeah.
But instead of reaching out to independent, resources, he emailed the city.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, oh, here's the address to the event we're throwing on this day and at this time.
Wow.
And the city's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing in Weston? Like they're like, no, this isn't going to happen. And, so we were going to get shut down 2 days before the event.
Right.
And now I'm super stressed, right? Because we fully committed into throwing this event.
Yeah,
we
sure.
paid for the production.
It would not be good for many reasons.
A disaster. And that would be my second event ever. So it would basically ruin me.
So you're stressed. This whole thing is a huge stress.
Super stressed.
Yeah.
So, like I always say, I did what any logical man would do. I called my mom and I'm like, go to City Hall. So my mom went with the legal counsel of Karate Combat. They went to City Hall, and she played, very innocent, like, "Oh, we didn't know this was illegal," like a house mom, innocent mom type.
Amazing house, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really cool.
And she's just a gangster, And she got it done. She got it approved by the city.
Wow.
So they gave us a time limit to like, look, just close everything. I think by 11, be done with everything. But they let us go until 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Actually, they let us go until whenever the hell we wanted.
Wow.
So that was really cool, and I think it was just a major success.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was literally in a residential neighborhood. How many people came about?
I believe it was somewhere between like 3,700 to like late 4,000s. Something
This is
like
a proper residential. I mean, it was Guard Gate. Like it was like a real, in a neighborhood. In a neighborhood. It was. I went. It was crazy. That was really cool.
It was. Rick Ross was hosting.
Yes.
Yeah. And my mom's taking pictures with Rick Ross. It was so interesting.
It was awesome. Yeah. And so you come on. You're now here. Goat Shed is something we're going to kind of bounce around. Goat Shed. When did you start that? Because that's a viral, major. People, anyone in the world of fighting, boxing, MMA, they know about Goat Shed. When did that start? And what's that?
Goat Shed started 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so I became a coach, and I really fell in love with my fighters, and I just wanted to give my life and help them achieve their dreams, So we opened up Goat Shed, and instantly, I didn't know I had this. It was more out of necessity. I found out I was great at marketing and great at promoting, and I had never really known that. And I was able to promote the fighters so well that we became the most active team in Florida in the first year.
Wow.
And we were just killing it,
How many?
man.
Put in perspective, because how many teams? Like when you say teams and gyms and this, is it like? Is there 100? Is there 20? Is there 500? How many gyms are we talking in the area, or is it just like
in Florida? I mean,
lots.
So initially, we're only competing in Florida, right? So we're competing against hundreds of gyms in Florida. I would say, right? Okay. There's hundreds of gyms in Florida. I would say the top gyms, they're probably only like, let's say there's 8 elite facilities in Florida, maybe a little less. Okay. Like 7 elite facilities in Florida.
Right.
And very quickly we became one of them. But initially, you have to understand, it was our first year opened.
Yep.
We're challenging all these people that have been around for 20 years. So they took us as a joke.
Yeah.
And I think they underestimated us a lot, which also helped us win all these fights because I don't think they took us seriously. They're like, oh, these guys.
And you make this place. Is it a content team? You guys are putting out YouTube videos. Like, what made it go viral?
My God.
What was the sauce that made that so special?
So at that time I was the wrestling coach, the jiu-jitsu coach, the boxing coach, the conditioning coach, gym manager. I filmed and edited and posted all content.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You did all that?
I filmed, edited, and posted
Seriously,
every
how
single
many hours
content.
a day are you sleeping?
Oh,
it doesn't sound like you're...
First of all, I absolutely hate sleep. I despise sleep. But
no water either, right? Caffeine.
I
got your notes, man.
It's a horrible diet,
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of people went off on me. They're like, "Hey, why is he promoting no water?" Guys, drink water. I just don't because I have a bad habit, right?
How much coffee are you doing a day?
I would say I have like about 4 cups of coffee and maybe 2-3 cups of green tea.
Okay.
I'm trying to be healthy about it.
Right. Yeah. But no, like literally you're on caffeine diet.
Unfortunately, I need to drink water still. This is a problem I've been trying to fix. My wife is helping me get over this caffeine addiction.
Okay. I have a little bit. I'm with you on that. I have water nearby because I've already hit my quota on the coffee today. But but you're talking what? Like you're working 18-hour days? Like that's crazy.
I would say. So I was doing like, let's say 80 hours a week, something like that. And what I got really blessed with, so my inspiration to open up the gym was truly my wife. I would have never opened up a gym if it wasn't for her.
Wow.
And she's an attorney. She quit her job. She was working in an insurance company. She quit her job there and she became a manager for fighters and was able to help me in the gym. So with her doing 80, 90 hours a week, plus me doing 80, 90 hours a week, we absolutely skyrocketed. That's awesome. It's insane. The pro MMA team right now has a record, I believe, like 121 wins, 14 losses, something absurd. I got to check the exact number. 90% win ratio. Wow. These are like unheard of numbers. These are amongst the best gyms on the planet have records like that.
That's amazing. That's sick. And you guys, so she left. Where'd you meet your wife?
We met on Bumble, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a Bumble. That's fine. These days it feels like that's the norm is
Yeah.
if you're not meeting on an app or somewhere, it's like not even.
Well, I was working so much and training and doing all this stuff, and she was in law school at the time.
Okay.
So we had really no time to go out and do anything for ourselves. So Bumble was sort of our
wow, that's cool. When was that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was about 6 years ago.
Awesome. That's amazing. So now she's full on helping move the content, the gym along, working with you, making sure everything works. And then now, I mean, what does your day-to-day look like today?
Now it's absolutely nuts. To be honest, it's really, really rough because I'm juggling being the president of, a major combat sports league and being a full-time coach for bunch of world-class athletes. It's not easy to juggle both, you know, but basically I wake up bright and early. I start coaching in the morning.
What's bright and early?
Maybe I wake up like 7 a.m., right? 7 a.m., go straight to the gym, and I'm coaching from 8 a.m. to 1 o'clock. And then from 1 p.m. onward, I'm working on karate combat, like nonstop. Like it's crazy. I'm skipping one call right now, but nonstop, meetings and calls and dealing with different fighters and organizing these events because these events are in new locations every month.
We were just talking before this show started, and I went to Dubai. That was incredible. That was so well run. The majors tennis center there, really cool. Major cities, and I just went to Austin. That was also amazing. The one at your mom's house, amazing. And now you just had Orlando, the Vegas one you said in December. There's we're talking Singapore.
Well, the rest of the year is insane. You got Singapore, Salt Lake City, Utah, Shanghai, China,
Abu Dhabi. Yeah, it's an amazing lineup. Like, and they're so far.
Nuts.
There can't be further. Literally the cities you mentioned, it's like the furthest flights in the world.
Going on?
Yeah, no, it's wild. So which of those are you most excited about?
Oh man. Oh, okay. So look, I love the UAE so much. There's a lot of reasons for it. They're just, it's so new. Everything's so new, the infrastructure and everything about it, that it's just like fascinating. They're building like the most entertaining city on the planet.
Yeah,
it's really,
it is
really crazy.
If you look at the pictures from 20, 30 years ago, and it's almost like make-believe.
It's
unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable. No,
Dude.
they're a bunch of geniuses, and they have the funding and they have everything to create the greatest city on the planet.
Yeah.
So those are amazing. But one thing that's really crazy to me is the Singapore event. We have created such an amazing card that I don't know if we can top it.
Right.
That's what I'm scared of. I swear.
Yeah, you're going. It's like what?
We went hard on Singapore.
Really?
No. We went crazy on Singapore. It's going to be the highest level striking you've ever seen in your life.
Really?
Swear.
Wow.
And it's to the point where, and it's really rough. Karate combat's changed a lot from when I joined, Prior to me, the president was a point fighting world champion. He was more in that traditional karate realm. Okay. I'm sort of the new age guy, the mainstream combat sports guy, right? So things changed. The athletes on the roster prior were mainly point fighting guys that are fighting for the first time in continuous fighting.
Okay.
Now they're seasoned vets. These guys are real high level strikers.
Yeah, no, some big names too, guy coming
exactly.
through. And tell me the level. If you're, it's interesting. I have some friends at Boxer that were like just today even David Hay. He was like a world champion boxer, and I'm curious if people have heard about karate combat. Like, I'm surprised sometimes where I have friends that don't even that they like were at the event. One was going in Dubai and was there, and then there's sometimes major fighters that don't know. So it's like it's getting more well known. But what is the biggest difference if someone's watching at home? Karate combat fighters. Could you explain that versus like UFC? Are they
perfect.
How does it work?
That's how do you
calibrate it?
Exactly, super great question. So this is what I'll say to you. We want the greatest strikers on the planet. When you talk about UFC, it's MMA. It's a different sport. Okay. So to describe striking or karate combat to anybody that may not know, like a casual fan, I would say this. It's essentially MMA without submissions and without the holding.
Okay.
So the part that actually most people find a little boring, where they're stalling and holding each other and going for submissions, we eliminate that.
Right.
And it's a pure striking sport. And that's why you see so many finishes, and it's definitely pretty violent, right? And really flashy.
No, there's some crazy knockouts. Stretchers nearby. We're going to talk about, there was one recently. It was the guy was out for a few days, right?
Yeah, that was a lot, right? That was painful to watch.
Was that Orlando?
That was Orlando.
Orlando.
But it's just, you're seeing in action-packed fights, and it's easier on the eyes for the casual fan. Because the casual fan, they don't really want to see people rolling around on the ground too much.
Yeah.
Now you're just seeing flashy kicks and punches and knockouts. It's really easy to watch for those guys.
Yeah. And you say that, but at the same time, viral moments you're present, you want to see, someone get lit up as a clip. But where is the final? How dangerous is it? Because people do get. There's been some nasty. And UFC too, of course. But this is a violent. It can get a little bit out of hand. How do you where did you stand on that? You want to see people love that. They want to see pain, but they also, you don't want people to get hurt.
You're right. And that's where, in Orlando, it was really rough for us because we had such an unbelievable event in Orlando. I'll tell you this, Orlando, we were looking to build up our prospects, our younger prospects. So we weren't expecting too much out of them.
Okay.
But they all delivered. All these super young new prospects that we signed, they brought the heat.
Right.
And the fights were unbelievable. Now, in the main event, we had a really great guy. We had Rafael Alves, who's just a phenomenal striker. I consider him one of the greatest strikers on the planet. He fought the main event fight. And this is where my night was ruined.
Right.
He gave probably the most viral knockout in all of combat sports for the year. Like, there may not be a more viral knockout than what he did this year.
This was the
switch kick?
Yeah, and style points too. Crazy.
It's
that
insane.
Was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So the kick was phenomenal, all that stuff, but the sound of the impact and then seeing his opponent just fall stiff on the ground.
Wow.
It kind of ruined our night. My wife and I looked at each other and it was just like our heart sank to our stomach.
Yep.
We just were not able to be happy until we found out he was okay.
Right. So you were generally worried it could be
terrified.
Really
No, terrified. Yeah. Terrified. We were terrified for him. That was the worst knockout. And I've been training since I was 3 years old.
Right.
I've been watching fights my whole life. I've never seen live a worse knockout.
Right.
Joe, by the way, this is really cool, but just organically, Joe Rogan's, we've been on like every podcast of every week he's on. He's always mentioned Karate Combat. He mentioned that knockout. And he also said the same thing I said, which is, I don't feel comfortable ever giving his opponent a fight again.
Right.
It was such a vicious knockout.
Yeah. He came to Austin. I was there too. It was pretty cool. He came by and
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Man.
UFC also is sort of singing the praises Karate Combat. I think they on the ticket or they show it or they talk about it.
So the UFC, here's the thing, man. Everyone tries to copy the UFC.
Right.
And there's such B leagues. Like, it's terrible.
For sure.
They try to copy the same thing and they don't look creative and they just look like a cheaper version of the UFC.
Yep.
We went completely left field. Like, we don't look remotely close to the UFC. We don't use the cage. We have a whole different production. A lot of times it's in the studio. We have these virtual backgrounds. The rules are different. We are trying to be our own thing. And I think that's why UFC loves us so much.
Yeah.
We're not trying to compete with them. We're not trying to copy them.
Yep.
And they respect this uniqueness. And all the UFC execs, they follow me. We talk. They support me. I went to dinner. I had dinner with like Mick Maynard the other day, 3-hour dinner, one of the UFC matchmakers. And he was just praising Karate Combat to the point where UFC Fight Pass, we gave them the content. We work very closely with them. So they air our fights as well. Yeah. And they're very supportive of us.
And how does that work too in terms of competitiveness versus working together? Where does UFC and Karate Combat, how do they kind of...
So the way I look at it is just as if like soccer competing with basketball, right?
Okay.
They're two different sports. We're a striking sport. We have no submissions. We're not on your MMA record.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Okay.
So we want to be the kings, the greatest striking league on the planet. They want to be the greatest MMA league on the planet, and I'm happy for them. I want them to be that while we're on our mission.
So it's completely
different.
And look, there's some overlap in fans.
For sure, right? Because same thing with other sports, right? Like basketball fans might watch baseball as well.
Of course.
So there's definitely crossover. And we have a lot of UFC athletes that fight in our rule set. So it happens all the time that way, but we don't want to compete with the UFC, man. We want to be in different.
Like Luke Rockhold was he's been the main event.
He was the champion of UFC.
Yes, and he's fight. So there is people in UFC that are coming, or they they do come over and.
So now we can't bring. Every athlete that can fight in the UFC may not be able to fight under our rule set and vice versa because we're a striking league, right? So like if they're mainly a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu artist, I wouldn't bring them to our league. But if they were a phenomenal striker, like Luke Rockhold was UFC champion and he's a great striker, oh yeah, come to our league. Or Anthony Pettis was UFC champion, Benson Henderson, UFC champion, definitely they can cross over. So we just have to find the right crossover. Kind of like how I think Michael Jordan tried to play golf. It didn't work so well, right?
Yeah,
but he tried.
That's a good way to look at it. And what I got to ask about the name, because Karate Combat, I love the name. I love karate. Karate.com. You got it all dialed in. Kentucky Fried Chicken started to be called KFC.
I love it.
And like in Karate Combat, the KC, like UFC is UFC. KC. What do you think about the name? Because it is not just karate. It is. There's others.
You're right.
That's like.
Wait, but you're saying you want to do karate fighting championships, KFC?
I'm saying that instead of calling it Karate Combat, call it KC. Like I'm saying what the name because the name karate is not. It's not limited to karate. It is mixed martial arts, right? There's other.
You're right.
There's
You're
other.
Right.
other variations?
So originally, the vision was to create a platform for only karate athletes.
Yep.
You know, the vision now is, okay, we have this pro karate rule set, but we're going to open it up for anybody to compete within that rule set.
Yes.
You know, and it's created a little of controversy where traditional karate guys are kind of mad. But in the same respect, the way I describe it to them is like, dude, if there's a boxing match and a kickboxer wants to fight in boxing and he's winning, hey, more power to him. He's great at boxing also.
Yeah.
Same thing with ours. You know, like if a Muay Thai guy comes and fights in our karate combat rule set and is winning, good for him. He knows how to fight the karate combat rule set better than you do. So his karate's better than yours.
Right.
Doesn't matter his background.
Makes
now,
sense.
I love what you said where you don't want to create a confusion where it's exclusively only karate because it's not that case anymore. We have all these different martial arts.
Right.
So we are leaning in towards the KC, constantly saying KC, KC 48, KC 49,
Yes.
KC 50. So we want to evolve it a little more into that. So that way it opens up people's minds about allowing different martial arts to come in too.
Makes sense. And your schedule now with traveling, how has that impacted your with the Goat Shed Gym? Are you able to still kind of stick on that? Because it seems like it's a lot. You're doing, and how many, you tell me about Goat Shed, we kind of segued away from that. You have like 15 people living there, you provide meals, like it's a full on, it's not just like,
a whole thing,
it's a whole
man.
thing in itself. And then
Yeah.
and karate combat's obviously huge. So how are you kind of getting pulled in
this
that?
whole thing, you know, it became very complicated, you know, with the karate combat presidency, I didn't think it was going to take away that much from the coaching, but it did a lot. You know, and I have to sacrifice a lot of time for karate combat, especially because of the travel.
Yeah.
Right? We're in a different country every month.
Time zones.
Exactly.
You can't not even just not being there physically to do calls or talk to your fighters and people. It's like
It's a
you're
mess.
not really fully available. So yeah.
So the way to do it and what I've been doing is I've needed to find a coaching staff. And that's what I did. So the first mission was, okay, who can I find that's willing to be here full time and work their ass off?
Yep.
You know, so I found this great striking coach from the jungles of Mexico. We call him Mango. Okay. So we got Mango over here. We brought him to Miami. You know, we got him an apartment and he's training all the fighters full time. He's there from morning to night. And he has a very, 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 very similar work ethic to me. He is down to work all day long, no sleep, just go.
Yep.
And he's been an absolute blessing to keep the team running and to make up for the time I'm missing now, right? So that's one thing. And then we have other coaches, a gentleman named Salman, Dean Thomas. These guys help as well with the fighters. All of us combined with a proper coaching staff, we can provide these guys with a good training environment. But what I'll tell you is this, the first half of the year, it was terrible.
Right.
Because there were growing pains, right?
Yes.
It was like,
you're
how
not-
do we adjust?
they don't know exactly. People have their own expectations. They're coming to look. They
Of
want to work
course.
with you. They want to be there.
Fighters
and
were
then-
upset.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy. They weren't happy. Performances started dropping.
Right.
Right. So we have this insane winning record, like crazy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we had a couple losses that were very unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it can't be a coincidence. I
Right.
just became president. Now we have a couple losses that this would have never happened
Yeah.
before. So we had to reevaluate things and make adjustments, and that's what has been happening. And we've made those adjustments. Now we're on a great, crazy win streak right now.
That's awesome.
And we're back on track. But there's definitely been some adjustments, and there's still some adjustments needed. You know,
And
even now.
what are you having more fun with? Is it being the president and like helping with the make adjustments to the venue, the logistics, or do you like that, or are you more just like you love coaching and being at the grassroots? Like,
So, I this may change one day. I think the thing that I love the most about being president is watching these fighters grow from, maybe a no-name person to an absolute star.
Yeah.
And helping guide their careers and promoting them properly and seeing them really achieve their dreams. That's my favorite. And that may be because I was a coach.
Right.
And I am still a part-time coach, right? So it may be because of that. That I care about these guys so much, but I find myself getting emotionally attached to all the fighters in karate combat.
Yep.
And then when I see them fight, I start screaming myself sometimes. Like I start even coaching, and it's really rough. But I really care about these guys, and I want to see them do well.
yeah, and the hires, the people, the announcers. I mean, there's some amazing talent. You're talking about GSP. You got
yeah.
your Big Mike.
Yep.
Some of these other guys that I'm not. I've learned and I've noticed them. They're great. Like who came up with
That's a
getting the cast?
great question. So what's interesting is, when you look at the UFC, I actually had a conversation with a guy named Campbell. He owns an MMA organization. He's one of the founders of UFC. He's a very good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking to him, and he was talking about Joe Rogan when they hired Joe Rogan, and they were looking for somebody that was funny, entertaining, that could relate to the crowd, and then practices martial arts. So, and that's a very unique person. So they found a comedian. They thought it'd be great to have a comedian as a commentator, So that sort of evolved. Dana White ended up hiring Joe Rogan, and that went on that path, and it was very successful. I wanted to find, 2024 version of a Joe Rogan type idea, and I thought, okay, what about a famous YouTuber? Let's find a big time YouTuber, get him on the commentating booth, start teaching him about combat sports and see where it evolves. So we found Big Mike. We call him the voice of the casuals. He may not be a fight expert, but that's what makes him fun.
Right.
He asks the questions that the casual fan may be too embarrassed to ask.
Right.
And he gets to ask, and then the experts like Bosrud and GSP, they can go ahead and answer.
Yes, and also it's he's obviously he's a smart guy. He's learning, so he's like learning, really learning. But he's also got he's got the base down. He gets it, and it's kind of like you're building up your learning curve, and then you get to ask more advanced questions. That's very cool.
In the beginning, I felt bad because a lot of these traditional martial artists, they don't quite understand the methodologies to really make something mainstream. So they were really mad that Big Mike was involved. They're like, why is he involved? He's a YouTuber. He's not a martial artist. And it's like, guys, the more people with influence we can bring into the sport, the more mainstream you'll become, and the bigger the martial art will become. So if someone truly loves karate, they'll be super happy to have Big Mike there. Right. They'll be really, really happy to have RFK in the event. This will all get them really excited because we're bringing these people that will bring the eyes on the sport. So Big Mike is a huge contribution to the sport.
Yep.
In the beginning, he took a lot of hate and trolls from the traditionalists, but now I think people have really grown to really love him.
That's awesome. And tell me about the league being tokenized. So I believe the first ever sports league tokenized. And again, in crypto, crypto has its path. It goes up, it goes down. There's Bitcoin, there's altcoins, shitcoins, everything. But Karate Combat of utility for crypto, there's really not much utility. A lot of these coins are like, it's a way of like stock, but there's utility, fan engagement, up-only betting on the app, which is an incredible developed app. Tell me about, Rob, Dave. These guys are like finance background, right? Wall Street guys. You didn't go to college, right? Correct?
No, I didn't.
So you didn't.
How'd you know that? You could tell?
I got no.
Oh, shit.
No, I couldn't. I actually had to I had to fact check. I didn't believe it. I read it.
Yeah. I drop out.
Okay, so but I just want so is it? How do you find working with like Wall Street type stuff and crypto and these? Because listen, I kind of get crypto, but still even Bitcoin. Oh, shit's over my head. Where do you fall into like kind of like these guys are like, their way, and then you're how it works? Is it fun? Are you learning it? Do you just not worry about it? How does this all work?
One of the first things I did. So first of all, he's probably gonna blush when he sees. I absolutely love Rob. Like Rob's like my guy.
He's a mess. I try to get him on the podcast. He's been here many times, but not. He's like, no, you gotta have awesome. I was like, great. That's fine.
Rob is nuts. I'm like his spirit animal. I think because he loves me too.
He is nuts. He's nuts, but great. I love the dude. He's buttoned up, but nuts. Yes.
It reminds me like everyone behind Karate Combat is a bunch of guys that are like on Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, like they're just insane geniuses. And super creative, right? So they're really fun people. So what I did is as soon as I started hanging out with them, I went home, I watched The Big Short, I watched Wolf on Wall Street, I watched a bunch of finance movies. I'm like, oh, I got this. I understand the culture here. These are all psychopaths. Right. And nuts. I fit right in super with them,
nuts, That's amazing. But so it's been, I mean, it's been a good match? Like, are you into, do you get behind that? Are you trying to like understand the tokenomics stuff? Or are you just
no. It's look.
Because it's complicated, and it's got to be crazy when you see days when you're like, oh, the business is flourishing, we're putting on amazing events, everything's perfect, but then like depending on crypto pricing and things can fluctuate, right?
These are all things I've learned about very quickly. So you have to imagine I had no crypto background whatsoever, right? So I joined in, I bring the fight knowledge, and essentially Dave and Rob, they have the crypto knowledge and the Web3 stuff.
Aho, and then
Aho and
Dave
and Rob.
as well, and Dave's there as well. And these guys are great.
All of these awesome geniuses, right? So they're all together and they're taking care of the Web3 crypto realm. I take care of the fight realm. And at first, I was separated. I was like, okay, I don't need to learn too much about that. But as time passed, and it was only like a month in, like, holy shit. So we flew out to the UAE, and I'll tell you this. We met with some of the most important people on the planet the UAE. They were interested in Karate Combat. They were more interested in why there's a token behind it and the crypto part of Karate Combat. Because we're the first crypto-run sports league.
Right.
It doesn't exist. You know, so they were very interesting. And when I started seeing these extremely important, intelligent people asking about this, I'm like, okay, this might be the future here.
For sure.
Because the UAE is thinking ahead, so far ahead, and they want to get ahead of the rest of the world.
Yep.
And what they're focused on is crypto. So I'm like, okay, I need to learn about this. So I went back home with my wife and we started studying and learning more about how the token is involved with the league and how it's the utility behind it and all that stuff, upholding gaming, all these different things. And I started realizing these guys are geniuses. This is a crazy idea.
Yeah.
And I really feel that eventually other sports leagues are going to follow in this direction.
It makes sense.
It has to happen.
It does. It makes sense. And it's also a case study. So it's going to be interesting how it turns out. And, you know, again, I'm very bullish on the project, and it's nice to know. You got to think about it daily when you wake up, and like so much cool stuff's happening, right? You even mentioned these events, the Shanghai and Abu Dhabi is going to be incredible during F1, and you know it is fun, right? And these people and the fighters too getting to go, they get to go to some of the most insane locations. Can you tell me about that? What is that like for out of the at Gocha? Are people competing in karate combat, or is that more separate?
Man. All right, so wait, there's a lot to go off of. One thing I'll add, because this is very, very important.
Yeah.
There's a big controversy in combat sports about fighters being taken advantage of.
Right.
Pay-wise.
Exactly. This is one of my questions I was going to say about what it looks like, because it is UFC. I know it's talked about a lot.
Yes.
So this stuff,
everywhere.
Any fight league.
It's just huge everywhere. It's a conversation everywhere.
Right.
And I'll tell you this. To be a world-class fighter takes a lot of sacrifice. So like you said, we have fighters living in the gym. They're eating 3 meals a day, microwaved meals, right? Meal plans. It's not easy.
It's not glamorous. It's not.
It's not.
You see, that's the problem. But that's the same in every kind of major sport, and even in Olympics and stuff. Like you see these world-class top athletes, and you see the Michael Phelps, you see the Usain Bolts, you see these guys. But really, a lot of them, it's
they didn't start off like that.
Not, and then there's only so many. A lot of them, it still is harder. They don't get funding and all that. So so tell me about the karate combat. Let's go to the experience of the fighters, because how many fighters are going to each of these?
We have usually each event has a minimum of 10 fights an event.
Yep.
Minimum of 10 karate combat fights.
And then there's influencer fight.
And you have IFC and you have grappling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So with those 10 fights, you have 20 fighters, right? So 20 fighters are fighting in Singapore and Shanghai. And here's the thing about it. Not only do they get to go to all these unbelievable locations, each fight is truly an opportunity to change their life, because the amount of viewership we get on events is insane.
Yeah.
Because we're not behind a paywall.
Right.
So because of that, our viewership is just trumps everybody else's. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You're talking about Dubai did over 50 million streaming views when you add Facebook, Twitter, all these different platforms. It's really, really crazy. You know, so each fighter has the opportunity to completely change their life each fight. That's not common in different leagues.
Give me, if you don't mind, I don't know if this is public or not. I know I have a rough idea, but could you maybe put from your, let's say the 10 fighters or even the influencer, what kind of range, like minimum guarantee if you go and lose? Is there incentives for winning the main event fight? Could you give me a little bit of like an idea on the numbers?
So I'll tell you this, and this is where I was going to get at why it's so important. So fighter pay is something that's very controversial in combat sports right now.
Okay.
Because a lot of people feel like fighters are being taken advantage of. What I love about karate combat is, of course, you get your pay, you get your show money and your win money. But on top of that, you get a percentage of tokens when people are playing the up-only gaming on you.
Okay.
So when people vote for you, each fighter gets a percentage of those tokens when they're voted on.
Wow.
That's amazing, because then your pay is growing as the league grows.
Yeah.
You know, as the token takes off and the league's growing, the fighter pay gets to grow.
Yeah, I was having a hard time wrapping my head around up only, which I understand the concept, but just on it, and Rob was explaining more to me how it worked, and it does make sense. There is a portion allocated for people to wager, and then that's actually interesting with the fighters then. So the company's essentially paying like a bonus or extra with the tokens on top of everything.
And what does that do to the fighters? That incentivizes the fighter to promote the league, right? To work hard to promote the league and gain a fan base that will vote for them, right? Which is good for the league. And then they get their pay is increased as our league grows.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of organizations, no matter how much the organization grows, the pay stays the same for the fighters.
Right.
And that's where the fighters don't feel like it's fair to them.
They're not incentivized.
Yeah, they're not incentivized
properly or part of the thing. Yeah.
So a lot of these fighters, when they get their wallet, their crypto wallet, they're like, oh, okay.
It's got to be cool too for the fighters to go to these locations, right? Because it's like, again, these are some. I've always wanted to go to Singapore. I've been to Shanghai. I haven't been to Abu Dhabi. These are like cool locations. Like it's one thing to fight in Vegas, AC. You fight and it's like, okay, cool, and that is cool, and maybe that's like the Vegas is known as like the fight central. But if you get to kind of go on a tour and you're like, look, I'm going to go to some of the coolest cities in the world, get my travel paid for, win some money, and get to experience that. I think that's a really unique opportunity.
Without a doubt, it's unique, and that fighter experience is very important to us. So, like I said, my wife, when she left her job and she became a fight manager, that's essentially what she was doing for our fighters, making sure that their travel's taken care of, they get their hotels, their correct flights, and that they're living the most comfortable life while they're achieving their dreams.
Yeah.
So now she's handling, she oversees fight operations for Karate Combat as well. So it's really cool. She gets to bring that experience and that care that the fighters were getting in our gym and now give it to a whole league. So how the fighters are treated are super important for us.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they land, they have their hotel room, everything's taken care of. They have a training room, they have their saunas.
Yeah.
All of that needs to be arranged. And we take that very personally to take care of the fighters and make sure that they're enjoying their experience for Karate Combat.
That's awesome. And how many total fighters would you say have come through Karate Combat, like in roughly?
No. We actually, the exact number I believe is like 187 fighters on the roster currently.
Wow.
So currently signed to Karate Combat, I believe is about 187 fighters. My wife, correct? No problem.
I think that's
okay,
yes.
No problem.
That's about right. 187. 187.
Thank you.
And what's been your so far? I mean, out of the ones you've done, what have been your favorite? What's your best run? Maybe the city. What was just kind of? It can mean whatever that means to you.
Man, honestly, it's going to be Dubai. Okay. So far, like my favorite event we've ever had, I would say is Dubai.
That was your first time there?
That was my second time there because remember the first time I went there was I was pitching Karate Combat to all these people, right, and that's where I found out the significance of.
And how was that received in Dubai overall? Would you say they loved it?
Insane. Forget
they
about just Dubai, dude. Across the UAE, they're like obsessed with Karate Combat right now,
and they see it could be the next big. It is. They feel it's legit.
No. And I know a lot of background stuff that's happening over there. Yeah. They are in love with Karate Combat.
That's huge.
And I truly feel like that's going to be a big thing to take us off because right now they're getting involved with boxing, with UFC. They're all across the board.
Soccer. I mean, you see it in this part of the world. Like they obviously, again, they have nice deep pockets and they want to really go all in. So that's huge. And speaking of go all in, we were on Hustler Live Casino, the show. You got to play some poker. That was fun. Tell me about that. And how much poker do you play?
So that was the first time I ever played poker in my life.
I thought literally ever. Okay, I knew you had never played in like a real game. I thought you at least played like for a little for fun. Okay.
So like about 10 minutes before, you gave me like a very quick rundown of what it was.
Helmuth as well was helping.
Yes. And it was amazing. Thank God you guys did that. But I had no idea what I was doing. And in actuality, when I got there, I started doing decently well, and I was somehow,
No, you were mixing it up. You were in there. You were
playing. I was in there. I was doing well.
Competing. Yeah.
I was doing well. And then I thought I had a hand that was just going to obliterate everybody.
Was it the Ace King suited?
I don't remember what it was, but it was you and I.
Yeah.
It was you and I going
honest,
head to head.
So I remember this, and this was the turning point for me in the whole thing because I didn't know you had never played. I knew you basically hadn't played. So but it was tricky because I was trapping, right? I had a hand where I knew I had the best hand for sure. But then by the river, I didn't know I had the best hand because I had a set and then it was like 4 cards to a straight. So in my head, I'm like, man, I didn't know what to do. And you bet big. And I was actually like genuinely like, this sucks. Cause like you could have, you know what I mean? I didn't know where I was at. I didn't know if you knew where you were at. So I didn't know where I was at.
I thought I knew where I was at.
No, exactly.
I was wrong.
You had a great hand, but it wasn't a good board for you. You had Ace King suited. I think I remember the hand. It was a big pot. You bet big. And that's the problem because you weren't bluffing. You were like, I think I have a good hand. And I'm like, shit, I think he thinks, you know what I mean? So that was fun though. That was fun. And like having.
I thought I was going to take you for a ride, man.
Yeah, I was worried. I was worried for a second.
You humbled me. You humbled me big time.
But that's good. Listen, if I got in a boxing ring with you, I think it would be a similar outcome. It wouldn't be good for me. So, but no, that was fun. Uriah Hall, Luke Rockhold. We had the crypto altcoin daily was there. Helmut. We had a mix. It was a really nice mix. I know they want to do it.
Bryce Hall was there too. Yeah.
Bryce Hall, of course.
Awesome.
He's actually a very good poker player. So
yeah,
he knew what he was
great.
doing.
He was great.
That was fun. We got to run that back. Hopefully, I think they were talking about as early as this month. But that's what I'm saying. When there's because the thing about this season is you stop an event and it's like I can't imagine the planning. In the next one, who's the main, who's this, like there's a lot to do. Are you involved with like talking to some like influence, like to get like what is tell me your day tomorrow. You wake up, are you like on calls?
No,
are you talking with the fighters?
So I'm overseeing absolutely everything. You know,
Okay.
social team. We meet with the production team, matchmaking team, the fight
What's the
recruitment
production team? How many people? All right, this is my question. Let's take Singapore, right? How many people? Forget the fighters, because we know there's 10 fights, influencer fight league, and like how many actual like production and staff and people are coming for Karate Combat?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. I mean, it's an
You can
insane
phone-
amount of
you can
people. Yeah, I
phone a
was going to
friend,
go to my
wife,
wife.
you go wifey on that.
Laura, approximately how much do we spend on travel for employees? Yeah, like approximate this card. So like 200 grand for flights alone.
Wow, so a lot of people. That's a lot.
So it has to be a lot of people, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess flying to Dubai and these places, it's a little more pricey, but still, that's a lot of logistics, man.
That's a lot.
There's a lot
And
of
then plus the
personalities.
hotel.
Yeah, people are messaging you.
Oh, yeah.
Every fighter's, I don't know versus like
Oh,
poker
that doesn't
players.
include the fighters, right? That does? Oh,
But
including
still,
the
like
fighters.
every fighter, you know what I mean? Like to give them the personal care
Yep.
and like to make them feel like you're not just like shipping them off and so
No, of
that is a
course.
lot. How many? Wow, that's crazy. I
No,
didn't realize
it's
that.
insane amount, and
Because the production too, to bring the camera, the
Exactly.
equipment, all this stuff
and
over.
the amount of work that's involved, like, thank God we have a crazy team. Because like our staff at Karate Combat, each person is doing like 3 or 4 jobs.
Right.
It's nuts. Like
Yeah.
we're across the
Well,
board.
that's what I'm saying. When a show finishes, it's not like, okay, good job. Like let's probably like, all right, well, let's get the next venue. We got to get there in advance. You
Yep.
got to like get it scouted out, make sure
Exactly.
everything's smooth. It's got to be super intense.
And before I got involved with Karate Combat, so before they used to have like a studio
Yeah,
production.
yes.
And they used to film all the fights in short throughout the year.
Where was the original? Was it? I want to say it was in
Hungary.
Budapest,
Right? Yeah,
I
Budapest.
believe that was,
It was
the
in
first, like
Budapest.
2017 or
Yep.
a long time ago. So
Yeah, a
that's-
long time ago. And they used to do it in a studio, and then they'd show it, they would show the season throughout the year or whatever it was. But now
Yeah.
we're doing physical locations every single month. So it's very, very different than what it used to be, and it's a huge grind.
Yeah, that's
An absolute
crazy.
grind.
That is crazy. What is your hope for Karate Combat? What do you think the ceiling is, and is it like where? Because what would you say the biggest competitor is? There's Rob's talking about. There's a couple similar-ish type leagues, but I mean,
To be honest, I felt like in a big part we were in a league of its own,
Right.
Because we started almost a new sport, a new striking sport. But essentially, we are competing with striking sports like glory kickboxing or boxing shows, and I know bare knuckle boxing is coming up. So different things like that. We're slightly competing with those guys, although it's a different rule set. But I would say that now things have changed since we've gotten so mainstream. We've by accidentally, or organically created a couple enemies. So I had one guy specifically that's been coming after me.
okay,
So there's an organization in Asia called One Championship.
well, okay,
Okay. One Championship is a phenomenal MMA organization. They're nowhere close to the UFC. The UFC is just tremendously better. The level is much better, but they're a good B league, Now, they're very popular in Asia, and there's no other combat sport that's really going to Asia like that. So they've sort of taken over that audience, the Asian audience.
makes sense.
Now, I didn't even have them on my radar. But what happened is when we threw our event in Dubai, it sort of intimidated them, and it kind of stirred the pot with them a little bit.
Okay.
What happened was our co-main event was a fighter that used to fight for them. They were so upset that this guy decided to fight for us instead that they called the guy's gym and said, if you allow that fighter to fight for them, we're cutting all your fighters from our league.
Wow. So really,
A week before, we lost our co-main event.
Wow.
Now, I didn't publicize that because I didn't want to stress about that. I just wanted to have a nice event, and I didn't want to cause problems. So I said, okay, they did that to us. That was very dirty move.
That is dirty.
Such a bully. You know what I mean? Because in reality, if the president of One Championship, his name is like Chutri, I don't know his name. If he would have called me and said, hey man, look, this fighter is very important to us. I know he's your co-main event, but look, we care about this guy. Can you please pull him and we'll help you find a replacement? I swear the personality I have, maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm naive.
Yeah.
I would have said, no problem, dude.
Right. It's a whole different.
I don't want to hurt. I don't want a problem.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll take care of it. I would have done that.
Right.
But now you literally tried to hurt, and you did hurt us.
Right.
Like that was a major figure,
Yeah,
our co-main event.
play. That's a play,
that's a big
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
So I said, okay, you know what? I got to come around for this guy. And then what ended up happening is I have some close friends in the industry too. Apparently, they're freaking out that Karate Combat's
Right.
growing like this.
Yeah.
And we're going to the UAE. Now we're going to Asia. So
Yep.
they're flipping out. And now they're calling people. And they're like, who the F is this awesome guy? What is he doing? They're freaking out right,
Right.
now because they feel the intimidation. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? They tried to backstab me over here. They did this. So they're based out of Singapore. So I said, let's go to your hometown, baby.
Wow.
You're based out of Singapore.
To the
We're doing an
right
event
side.
in your hometown.
September, right? 18th.
And we're going to do a
19th.
greater event than they've ever done.
Wow.
And we're going to have more important people than they've ever had.
Yeah.
And people are going to be shocked. And that's it. Let's go to war. Let's
game
take
on,
this
game
over.
on. All right, before I forget, I gotta ask about the crazy thing that I was there for in Dubai, where you're, I don't want to mess the story up. This guy, Khan, right? He's
Salman Khan.
Give me because you knew him as a baby.
You're gonna love this
I
story,
want to hear.
man.
Just tell me about it because I know he came to the event, but
Yeah.
like you guys reconnected and give me that rundown.
This is just a phenomenal story, man. So Salman, I knew him when I was a child. He saw me growing up. You know, I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and he saw
Yeah.
me for many years growing up. You know, basically, I was in the martial arts. He flew me out to India to watch him film his movies. He was a superstar, but I was so young that at the time I didn't really
You're
have
just
a
like, whatever.
concept
You're
of
like,
it.
oh, it's cool.
Yeah, I didn't really know.
whatever.
And I remember going in India, walking around with him, and people would chase us. Like I'm talking about the whole city would be running behind us. We would have to jump in a limo, drive off.
Wow.
So although he had that sort of star power, 25 years ago, I still didn't understand how big he was in the world.
Right.
You know, time has passed. We spent a lot of time together, but we lost contact. And I'm throwing this event in Dubai, and when I'm throwing the event, I have this idea. I said, okay, let's bring some influential people that are big influence in the UAE. Salman's name was the first one. He's one of the most influential people in the world. He's actually the number 9 most paid actor on the planet right now.
Right, which is crazy. And definitely in India, which has got a billion people, or more, he's the most famous person,
And
which is crazy.
When you talk about fame with him, it's a little different. I can't really compare him. Maybe in America, kind of like The Rock or Denzel or Keanu Reeves, where they're respected. They're not just celebrities, but
Right.
they do good things for the community, and people love them for that.
Right.
Salman's kind of that.
Yep.
He's not just a celebrity, but he does so much for the people that he's looked at as sort of everyone's big brother.
Right.
They
Yeah,
actually call him Baya, which is means big brother.
Okay.
So he's looked at as everyone's big. They respect him tremendously. So I said, okay, let's go ahead and bring him as the host for Karate Combat Dubai. And right away, Rob, everyone's like, dude, tell him you're his nephew. Let him know. Let's get the hookup. I said, guys, no. Let's not play it like that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in 20-something years. Let's do this the right way.
Right.
Let's reach out to his management. Let's just hire him.
Yeah.
And when he sees me, whatever happens naturally will happen naturally, And, the day before the event, he had just landed in Dubai. He found out who I was.
Right.
It's
really been 25 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It was maybe more, like 20, let's say 26, 27 years. Wow. Yeah. A picture leaked of me when I was 8 years old in India with him.
Right.
And when he saw that, right away I got a phone call from his manager. He says, hey, Salman wants to have a conversation with you. He wants to meet you tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this could be a good conversation or a bad conversation.
Yeah.
So I brought my little brother and my mother, and we went to meet him at his unbelievable penthouse
Just
in
the
Dubai.
absolute- just a
the
great-
most absurd, this is just straight out of a movie,
Right.
ridiculous apartment, right? And we walk in, and the guy was just so warm. And he hugged us, and he's like, why didn't you tell me, Asim? I would have done this for free for you. Why didn't you tell me? Why'd you do this? I don't understand. You paid me to be here. What's happening here?
Wow.
And he's just shocked, and he completely opened up his heart. And I'll never forget, because that whole night, we were there from, let's say, 8 p.m. till 4 in the morning.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
He was grabbing, there was a crew of 12 dudes. All of them with beautiful T-shirts and beautiful watches and all
Yeah,
the
I've seen that over
really
there, yeah.
cool looking people,
Yeah.
right? He's grabbing each of them. He's like, "Hey, this is my nephew. Take down his phone number. You need flights, you call this guy. Hey, take this number. You don't make $1 off of this kid, okay? This is my watch guy, my jewelry guy. You want to buy a watch, you buy from him. Okay, take this guy's number." And he starts passing
Just
me,
going through the whole
passing
deal.
me
Wow.
around, making sure I take everyone's number down. And as the night's passing, I'm asking them, "Oh, how long have you known Salman?" Everybody says, "Oh, I've known Salman 27 years. I've known Salman 34 years. I've known Salman 32 years." And I started realizing the youngest person was 27 years they've known him.
Wow.
He takes care of his people.
Right.
And when he saw us again, my mother and I, he was so attached to us that he was doing that with us. And right away, he started naming the most influential, most important people on the planet. He's trying to FaceTime them and put me in contact with them right away. And I just couldn't believe, like, somebody that has that much love and care to really take care and put me on, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
was
a crazy,
so cool.
that's such a cool, like, to
Oh,
already
yeah.
be in Dubai and have like an amazing set. Like, the whole
was
thing's crazy,
nuts.
and then have that as like family connection.
Yeah, and
that,
then, you know, what he did was, you know, and you got to watch, he posted this video and it got like maybe 37 million views on his Instagram alone.
Yeah.
Then he put it on Twitter and everywhere else. But he put a video telling the story about me as a child meeting him and this whole thing. And it's a really sentimental story. After that, he comes up to me, he's like, man, you know, who are the founders of Karate Combat? I want to start getting involved. Okay. So, okay, you know, there's Rob, there's this guy. Like I says, call Rob right now. It must have been at 1 a.m. I call Rob, like, Rob, you can't say no. You have to come right now.
I remember this story. We talked about the lunch next day. He
dude.
came over. He came over. Like,
He shot over
it's a
right
huge
away.
event in the middle of it. Next
I
day, a lot
know.
going on. But yeah, he's
Dude.
like, you just like when you say you gotta come.
That's it. You gotta
he
come.
comes. That's it. He knows you're not talking about you know, shenanigans. He knows it's serious.
Exactly.
You go over and yeah.
Rob came over, and right away he said, okay, this guy Vikram, he handles our business. Vikram, please take Rob and Asim to the balcony, make a deal.
Wow.
Talk about something. So we're going and we're speaking with this guy and trying to do a collaboration in India with Salman. So hopefully that'll be something that we can kick off next year.
Wow, pretty amazing. And I mean, you would so far though it's been a whirlwind. Like you love it. Like you wouldn't, you know, Goat Shed's great. That's your baby. You're there. You know, you're still involved. But like this has got huge. Like and passion and reach and everything. I mean, is this sort of your dream project?
Yeah, it has to be. So like I've always envisioned doing this eventually. I thought this was going to come much later in my life.
Right.
Because although I'm bald, I'm 33 years old, you know, and I look exhausted, right?
No,
so,
you don't. You got caffeine running through your veins. You're with me.
At 33 years old, there's no combat sports president at this level at 33. I don't think that's ever happened ever.
No, for sure.
So I didn't expect it yet. I thought I was going to coach, you know, until my 40s. And then finally I would transition to become a president and promoter of a combat sports
Right.
league. It happened a lot earlier than expected. But yes, this has become my full-time thing for a lot of different reasons. You know, my wife and I, we want to make a life for ourselves. We feel like we need to take the next steps in life. You know, we're married, and whatever those next steps are, you know, we got to decide. And
Right.
if that's the case, we need a solid foundation around us. And Karate Combat definitely has changed our lives completely from being a gym owner of a 3,000 square foot gym to being a combat sports president of top 3 most viewed organization on the planet.
Yeah,
it really
it's
changed.
pretty incredible. And, you know, again, I'm involved now with Karate Combat and I'm super bullish on it. I love it. I love Rob and Dave and all the guys there. It seems like a great family.
Dude,
and
are we allowed to say Aho and Dave? I thought we call him
Yeah.
only LARPing.
Hey, LARPing. I mean, that's how I know. I mean, yeah, Dave.
He's
And I'm talking about my
undercover
boy.
alien.
You know so actually, funny though, my Dave. I also reference there's Dave, but also Dave.
You're talking about Kuhn.
who I
Yeah.
met. That's how he told me about this at a friend's wedding. It was a mutual friend that we had known, and I was at a wedding like maybe 2 years ago, and he's like,
Yep.
"You got to meet Rob. You know,
Yeah,
he's in
yeah,
Miami.
yeah.
Come meet him." And so it kind of came out of nowhere. And then he was like, "You're gonna love this." And I heard as a Karate Combat, I was like, "I don't know, man. I played soccer. I don't know what I mean, I'm not like a martial arts guy, but I've gotten into it more, and I love it, and it's fun, and it really does seem like a great group, great project, and it's fun too to have kind of the crypto tokenomics sort of, you know." That element with sports,
sure.
it's new and innovative. So yeah, I'm really excited, really happy to. Now we got to properly chat. We've played some poker, we've been to the events, but we got to sit down and again, so cool that your mom did that event at her house. That's amazing, and more creative, amazing content gonna come, and we're gonna have more talks, and we'll have to. Well, next time we're gonna get a seat here for Rob. We're gonna bring him in. We're gonna
that'd be
drag him
great,
in and have a
man.
nice
That'd be great.
after another event. My last 2 questions were quickly. The Nashville. I know Haley came there. Hawk Tua was there. Well, I saw you by her. Was she fun and cool? She enjoyed it.
She was so
She
sweet,
seems like a
so
great
fun.
personality. It's kind of funny how it's like.
I kind of feel a little bad for her because, look, she's hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you seen her content lately? It's great
No, I
content.
mean I catch stuff here and there, and I know she seems just like a genuinely
She's
nice,
very
funny person. Yeah,
But she's taking so much heat
Right.
on socials.
Yeah,
she made a ridiculously funny joke that was
Right.
very creative.
Yes.
But, you know, social media gets kind of mean. And
course,
I
you're
feel
gonna-
bad because I read some of her comments and I'm like, why do this to the girl? Like, she's a sweet girl. She's from a small town.
It's just, it's going to be very polarizing. People are going to think it's hilarious or love it, or people are going to crush her. For
Exactly.
whatever.
But
yeah.
because of that, I troll back by calling her America's sweetheart. I'm like, oh, America's sweetheart, Hactua. Like, I love it. I love it. Like,
she's definitely
she's
done
such-
well for herself. She's
Oh,
got
yeah.
a lot of publicity, and she seems
And
to
she's
be
very
She seems
creative.
humble and like kind of like she's not like really trying to like You know what I mean? She does seem like a good person.
She seems like a great person.
Yeah,
You know, and I met her, and I've been watching her content, and very humble person, and I like her, man. I think she was wonderful, and she brought a shit ton of views at Nashville.
Yeah,
like it was crazy. Everything we posted of her hit over 1 million views.
Yeah,
so whether they're talking good or bad, it didn't matter.
Right,
They definitely watched Karate
fun.
Combat.
It was good.
Yeah,
and then the last question I want to have is about the headlock. There was some incident. Was this in? It was Orlando, I believe. Or,
yeah, dude.
So tell me about this.
In Orlando, we had one of the most controversial, crazy fights we've ever had.
Okay.
It was an absolute war between two fighters, ended in a split decision.
Right.
And the coach was very, very upset at the decision. So he's going off on the fighter. He's jumped up on the pit. He's going off on the fighter. He decides to leap inside the pit to chase the fighter. Now, the fighter's exhausted from going to war, so he jumps out of the pit.
Okay.
He does not want smoke right now. No,
he's done.
Security tried to tackle him. He stood up, dodged them, dodged like 4 dudes.
Oh.
Eventually, we grabbed his ankle and I pulled him down. And he was not going to stop. Pulled him down, climbed up his body. I said, you know what? Doop. Put him in a chokehold.
Wow.
This guy's a professional fighter.
Right, so he's also a fighter.
Dude,
this is
he's not a normal dude.
Yeah, you're not. You were kind of. You didn't know maybe like I'm gonna get this guy.
No, I knew this guy was a fighter.
You knew he was okay.
Without a doubt.
So
he
you
has
were
cauliflower
prepared.
ears.
Oh.
He's in shape. How he dodged the guys. He broke the grip technically.
Oh shit. Okay.
No. The guy was very obviously a fighter.
They needed you. They needed. It wasn't a local security.
He wasn't a local guy at all. Nobody was gonna stop this guy. It was finally Sam Alvey jumped in too, but I climbed up his body. I put him in the strangle. He went to sleep. And and then I exited the situation, and thank God it was over. So there's a very famous quote where I said on a podcast, and somebody made a T-shirt of it. I said, "I strangled him unconscious to de-escalate the situation."
That's about well said.
Hilarious quote.
That's a full circle. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So you were ready though. You got it done.
Yeah, man. Look,
that's actually. Let's close with this because I should have started with this, but. You started Goat Shed, but you're 33, 34.
I'm 33 now.
So when did you start fighting? What's your upbringing and background like for you to start? When did you start fighting?
Yeah, man. So my father was my first coach. My father was the assistant to the Olympic coach for Taekwondo. For United States.
In Taekwondo, which Olympics was that?
Well, the coach was Olympics for a few different Olympics. His name was Master.
Well, we're talking like the 80s, 90s?
Master Young Sudo, 80s.
80s
His name was Master Young Sudo. My father was his assistant.
Okay.
And when I was born into the martial arts. At 3 years old, my father started coaching me. I have videos of him teaching me spinning back kicks and stuff.
Wow.
So
that's
3 years
amazing.
old. I think my first competition when I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
Competing in Taekwondo.
Growing up where you grew up in Miami or
born and raised in Miami,
but
man.
Here, that was it. So you were doing that in Miami.
Yeah.
Wow. Which
born
part?
and raised in Miami. Well, I was training in South Beach a lot,
Wow.
and then eventually I found the Gracie Academy for Jiu-Jitsu.
So you've seen Miami transform.
Completely.
It's in a crazy place now. It's really special.
I've been there from the start. Actually, my whole family, they came here from Pakistan, and my uncle had a hotel in Ocean Drive before it was Ocean Drive. Like before it was the fun spot, right?
Right.
So it's funny. We got to see it from going from nothing Miami to, this has to be one of the most expensive, greatest places on earth.
It's right there. It is.
The craziest, let's say the most crazy, one of the craziest places on earth.
Come up.
Sure.
It's been a big come up. The last like 7-8 years, especially COVID did a number and all that. But you're fighting. So you were at your peak, when you were mostly fighting, you started young and then what was sort of like your...
So I started at 3 years old training with my father, eventually training with the Gracie Academy, and I started competing in kickboxing. I won nationals 3 times in kickboxing for the USA.
Wow.
And I became USA representative. I won worlds twice. So I won amateur worlds kickboxing twice. I decided to get into MMA. And when I finally decided to get into MMA professional, I started coaching at the same time. And as time passed, I sort of fell in love with my fighters' careers more than my own.
Okay.
I tried to juggle the two, and I just couldn't. And I wasn't performing to that world-class degree that I used to, right? So I had to choose, and it was actually my wife that made me choose that decision.
Wow.
She's like, "Hey, grow up. You want to be a fighter or a coach? What are you going to do?"
And what is it? What is sort of the? Is it similar to other sports where like fighting? Like, what's old for a fighter? Like Conor McGregor's how old? Like
Conor McGregor's I believe 34 years old. I would say like 35 is when you've kind of peaked out and you should probably start looking to exit.
There's not like 40-year-old big time fighters.
It happens once in a while. There's anomalies, but let's talk about a general statistic. I would say 35 is going to be
old
time to check out.
time to stop.
Yeah,
fighting.
time to stop. Like you probably reach your peak of athleticism. There's exceptions, obviously, but that's the general rule.
And tell me about the Olympics. Let's close with this. I got so many questions, but we're gonna have to do another follow up. We'll get Rob here for that. For the Olympics, where does that fall into play? Like what type of fighting's in the Olympics?
So the Olympics, the only full contact type of fighting is boxing.
Okay.
Actually, karate in the Olympics was it didn't work out very well, and I'll tell you why. It's minimal contact. So if you hit somebody too hard, you get disqualified. So ironically, for the Olympic gold medal, a guy did like a jumping kick, knocked the other person out, and because he knocked the other person out, he got silver.
Wow. Oh,
So
wow.
it's kind of ridiculous.
When was that?
That was the last Olympics before this one.
Oh, but this Olympics they didn't even. Did they?
I don't even
It's
know,
not really
actually.
it's not one of the main.
Yeah, I don't
things.
think so.
Yeah, the Olympics is getting. They did the breakdancing. That guy was kind of wild. Some of the stuff. They're
They're never gonna do it again. They already decided that.
Yeah,
So
I think there
that
was a
little
couple
strange.
some incidents, but yeah, very cool. Well, anyway, the trajectory seems high. New people coming in. I know the app, a beautiful app, Karate Combat, where again, up only if you download, you can bet, only win, you can't lose the tokens, which is cool. And yeah, it seems awesome. Is there anywhere people should follow you in particular? What's like your most active that you would say?
Yeah, definitely. My most active right now is my Instagram with President Awesome.
Okay.
That's the Instagram. But my Twitter, man, has been taking off. I just opened it like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But man, everyone's tweeting me. There's a
I'll
lot
be
of love
honest,
on Twitter.
I'm starting to follow
on
like,
X. Excuse me.
X, yeah, I'm starting to use like I love Instagram, but I actually it's kind of nice to get a little bit of like more news-ish or stuff on X. So that's great. What's your handle there? Same thing.
Prez Awesome.
Prez Awesome.
Prez Awesome. But what stinks on X, I didn't realize you could direct message somebody. So now I opened my inbox and it's just like flooded.
It's a good way to connect or
Yeah,
be in there.
I got to check
almost
all those
too
messages.
much. You got exactly.
I'm sorry for everyone on X. I haven't responded.
Well, listen, that's all right. We're happy you came today. I know we've been trying to do this. It's a pleasure to actually get to talk, get to know you better, and we'll be doing more of this, and we'll be on future stops and doing all kinds of content. So I appreciate the time, and we will be. You're down the road, man. I'm gonna come check out the gym. I want to go by there. Can people come to fight or take classes?
Yes.
Or is it strictly?
No. We have classes for hobbyists as well. Yeah, people that just want to train. So
has Rob? Is that where Rob's done a little?
So
there,
Rob does private classes at the gym.
That is where he uses. Okay,
Yes,
I'm gonna have to. I know it's a good workout, so I'll be checking that out.
Definitely,
So again, appreciate the time, everyone. This is number 210 in the books. We got President Awesome, man. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Sweet. How long was that?